You've seen it, hanging from the necks of mystics, tattooed on shoulders, etched into tomb walls, painted on altars, sold in souvenir shops. A loop above a cross, simple, elegant, mysterious. The Ankh, known today as the Egyptian cross, translated loosely as the key of life or symbol of eternal life. But this is only the surface, because what we've been told about the Ankh is partial, cleansed, sanitized, stripped of its power. We're taught it's just a symbol like any other, just another image from a lost civilization, another hieroglyph. But this is what they never told you. The Ankh is not a symbol, it is a map, a device, a living code for how life flows and how spirit awakens. It is the intersection of opposites, male and female, heaven and earth, energy and matter. But more than that, it is a blueprint for consciousness, not just in mythology, but in your body. The ancients didn't wear it for decoration. They held it in ritual. They carved it into stone to preserve its frequency. They used it in ceremony as a conduit of life force. They saw it as something far more than a sacred shape. They saw it as a technology. Yes, ancient energetic technology, not made of wires or metal, but of alignment, of breath, of intention. To them, the Ankh wasn't just eternal life in a poetic sense. It was the path to activating it, a diagram of how spirit enters form and how form can return to spirit if properly aligned. Because look at it again, the circle atop the cross, a loop, not just a halo, a womb. The vertical line, the spine, the horizontal line, the arms, and the loop, the head, the portal, the eye. It is the human form, but also the energetic form. It is the tree of life simplified into motion, the caduceus collapsed into geometry, the serpent and the staff in a single glyph. But this understanding was never meant for all. In Egypt, knowledge was layered. There was what the masses saw and what the initiates knew. And the initiates were told, the Ankh is not something you wear, it is something you become. To become the Ankh was to live in union, union of breath and body, union of earth and sky, union of personal will and cosmic flow. But that was dangerous knowledge, powerful, subversive. Because one who becomes the Ankh does not seek power, they radiate it. And the systems built on control, on hierarchy, on forgetfulness, could not allow that to survive. So the Ankh became an aesthetic, a relic, a logo, its geometry preserved, but its meaning diluted. Yet still it calls, still it appears, in dreams, in meditations, in spontaneous drawings, in the quiet hunger of the soul to remember its shape. Because something in you recognizes it, not intellectually, but viscerally. It pulses, it vibrates, it whispers, you knew this once, you were this once, and now you are remembering. Not because someone told you, but because the symbol is waking back up inside you. This is the forgotten symbol, not forgotten by history, but by consciousness. And now that it returns, it brings with it the instructions we were never supposed to find again. You were taught it was a cross, but it is not. A cross divides, splits, draws boundaries. The Ankh does something different. It connects. It does not slice space. It completes a circuit. This is the first truth hidden in plain sight. The Ankh is not a static shape. It is a flow diagram, not a metaphor, an energetic circuit. To see it clearly, you must stop thinking of it as art and start feeling it as motion. The vertical line is not just a line. It is the channel, the pillar, the spine both in the body and in the field around it. It is the axis along which energy descends and rises, heaven to earth, cosmic to human, spirit to matter. The horizontal arms? They are reception, the outstretching of energy to the world, the expansion of the heart, the open wings of the soul like the wings of Isis herself, spanning balance, breath, and blessing. And the loop? That is where the secret lives. It is not a circle. It is not closed. It is a loop, a portal, both entering and returning. It represents recirculation, the eternal return, the loop of breath, the loop of blood, the infinite loop of life and death, and life again. It is not a seal, it is a flow. And when you stop seeing the Ankh as a fixed symbol and begin to see it as a living movement, everything changes. Because now you realize the Ankh shows you how energy moves through the human form, down the central channel, out into the arms, up into the loop, and back again. It is not religious. It is technological, an ancient schematic, an energetic user manual. Just like the circuit diagrams used in modern electronics, this shape does something. In Egypt, it was often placed in the hands of gods. More precisely, it was held between the fingers and thumb, not like a staff, but like something you activate. You see ankhs hovering near the nose and mouth of pharaohs breathed in, as if it were the source of life force itself. That is no accident. Because the Ankh was more than a symbol of life, it was a transmitter of life. A circuit you could align with, and when aligned, your breath, your energy, and your consciousness would sync. Like a tuning fork, like a key. And here's the deeper part. Your body already follows this design. Your spine is the staff. Your arms form the cross. Your head the loop. When you stand in stillness, with arms outstretched and breath slowed, you are forming the Ankh with your own flesh. You are becoming the symbol. And that's the secret. You don't use the Ankh, you enter it. It's not an external object. It's a template that your body and your energy field can inhabit. And when it's aligned, you feel it. A sense of fullness, a current that rises and returns, a loop that doesn't trap but liberates. Because the Ankh is not static, it is alive. And it is here to remind you that life is not linear. It is a circuit, a pulse, a spiraling path of transmission and return. You are not a container. You are a conduit. And the Ankh was the ancient diagram that showed you how to remember that. What is the one thing you did before you were born into thought, and the last thing you will do before you leave this world? You breathed, not just to stay alive, but because breath is how spirit enters form. The ancients knew this. They didn't separate soul from breath. They didn't reduce breathing to biology. To them, the breath was life itself. And so was the Ankh. Not coincidentally, but by design. Because the Ankh doesn't just resemble the body, it resembles the breath cycle. Inhale, hold, exhale, return. The loop is the inhalation, the drawing in, the expansion, the divine reception. The vertical line is the exhale, the descent of breath into the body, the release back into the earth. The horizontal arms, the moment between, the pause between inhale and exhale, between worlds. You are the Ankh, and your breath is the activation key. This is why, in ancient iconography, you see gods holding the Ankh to the nose and mouth of humans. They are not just blessing them, they are transmitting breath. They are awakening the current of life, not metaphorically, but energetically. Because the Ankh wasn't a symbol of immortality, because of its shape alone. It was a reminder that immortality begins with the breath. Breath is not just air, it is the carrier of soul. In the Egyptian language, the word for breath was shu, which was also the name of a god, the one who held the sky above the earth. Breath was the space holder, the bridge between matter and light. And what is the Ankh, if not a visual bridge? A loop for the unseen, a pillar for the seen, a crossbar for balance. It is a perfect map of how breath becomes awareness. But in modern life, we've forgotten how to breathe. We pant, we push, we trap our breath in shallow chests, cutting off the loop, breaking the flow. And when breath is broken, so is energy, so is presence, so is connection to source. The ancients didn't meditate in silence alone. They breathed with intention, with posture, with sound, with the rhythm of the stars. Their temples echoed not just with chants, but with breathwork. Inhale through the nose, the gateway, down the spine, the staff, out through the arms, the wings, return to the top, the loop, over and over, not just to relax, to awaken. This was not relaxation, this was resurrection. The breath carried memory, it carried truth, it activated the energy centers, what we now call chakras, through the body, like light through the Ankh itself. Because here's the secret. When you breathe with awareness, you become a living Ankh. Your inhale is the call, your exhale the response, the rhythm is the mantra, the silence between breaths the portal. And through that rhythm, you come back to the wisdom that was never gone, just buried under tension and noise. This is why the Ankh is not an ornament. It is a breath map, a diagram of circulation, a portal to presence. Not just the symbol of life, but the practice of it. And if you let it, if you breathe with it, if you hold the shape in your posture, in your spine, in your awareness, you begin to feel what the ancients once lived. That every breath is a return to the source. That every breath is a prayer in motion. That every breath is the first and final key. And the Ankh was how they remembered it. Most people see it and think a circle, but look again. The upper part of the Ankh isn't closed, it isn't perfect, it is a loop. And that difference matters more than you think. Because a circle contains, but a loop flows, it breathes, it circulates, it opens. And this opening, this oval atop the cross, is where the secret lives. The ancients didn't place it above the staff by accident. They placed it there because the loop is the crown, the womb, the portal, all in one. The womb? Yes. Because creation begins in a loop, a closed sacred space where energy spirals, gestates, and then births form. In the Ankh, that loop is not just female, it is source itself, feminine, yes, but also origin, that which receives, holds, and eventually brings forth. The vertical stem is the channel of descent, but the loop is the entry point. And this is why gods held the Ankh loop near the mouths of kings and initiates. They weren't just bestowing breath, they were awakening memory, bringing divine essence through the portal of the body. This loop is also your crown. In the human form, the Ankh aligns beautifully with the body, the stem with the spine, the arms with the shoulders, and the loop right where the crown chakra lives. That space above the head, often unseen, but deeply felt. The place through which light enters, vision descends, connection awakens. The loop is not just symbolic, it is architectural. It is how energy enters you not in a blast, but in a spiral. Through the loop, not forced, received. This is why the Ankh is held upright, not sideways, not upside down, always with the loop above. because it points to a truth the ancients lived and breathed. Heaven is not above you, it flows through you. And it begins here, in the loop, the portal, the womb, the mind beyond thought, the stillness where life begins, ends, and begins again. In many depictions of Isis, you see the loop echoed again, not only in the Ankh she holds, but in the way she embraces Horus, her arms encircle. She becomes the living loop, the cosmic mother giving birth to divine memory. Even in the glyphs of other cultures, the symbol repeats, the Ouroboros forming a loop, the mandorla in sacred Christian art, the yoni in Vedic symbology, the eye of the hurricane a loop of stillness within motion. Because the loop is not just part of the Ankh, it is the essence of it. It is the reminder that all transformation, all movement, all becoming begins in the stillness of an open vessel. And here's what they never told you. You carry this loop inside you. It is the space behind your forehead, the breath above your crown, the moment in your inhale where everything pauses and becomes sacred. You don't have to imagine it. You can feel it. When you meditate, when you enter silence, when something touches you so deeply, your thoughts vanish and only presence remains. That's the loop. That's the portal. That's the part of you that remembers what came before words. And in the Ankh, it's drawn so simply, but it contains everything. The loop is not just the top, it's the beginning. Not as an idea, but as a living truth. You are the vessel. You are the breath. You are the portal. And the Ankh reminds you how to open again. There is a reason why every god in ancient Kemet holds the Ankh in a specific way. Not clenched, not hanging, but between the fingers, offered, extended as if transmitting something unseen. Because that's exactly what they were doing. The Ankh was not a relic. It was a device, a gesture, a current in symbolic form. You see it again and again in the temples. The Ankh held out toward the lips of a pharaoh, or placed before the third eye, or touching the heart. This was no decoration. It was the act of transferring energy. Like a key, like a breath passed from one soul to another, like a code unlocked by touch and intention. When Isis holds the Ankh, she isn't just holding a symbol, she is conducting life. She is the current between realms, offering life not as duration but as presence. Because to the ancients, life was not about how long you lived, it was about how aligned you were while alive. And the Ankh was the tool for that alignment. When a god offered the Ankh to a king, they weren't just blessing them, they were initiating them into embodied resonance, giving them the breath of divine order, reactivating the pattern of the original human, not the fallen, fragmented version, but the one aligned with cosmic law. And here's what's even more powerful. The way you hold the Ankh activates different functions. When held upright, loop above it aligns your own field. When offered forward, it transmits. When drawn inward, it receives. When placed at the third eye, it awakens vision. When near the lips, it empowers the breath. When held near the womb or navel, it harmonizes creative force. It was never random. It was energetic placement, a language of posture like mudras in the East. And this wasn't theoretical. These people felt what it did. In the stillness of the temples, in the echo of chants through limestone chambers, in the soft holding of an Ankh carved from wood or gold or obsidian, they experienced the living pulse inside the form. Because the Ankh wasn't powerful because of belief, it was powerful because it was attuned, made in the right ratio, carried with reverence, placed in specific geometrical alignment to the body and Earth's fields. That's why it worked. But the real secret wasn't in the object. It was in the gesture. Because the body, too, becomes the transmitter. Your fingers are not random. Each carries nerve endings and meridians. Your breath, your spine, your intention all generate subtle energy. And when you extend the hand, when you hold the Ankh just so, when you offer life, you become a node, a source, a conductor. The gesture itself speaks, not in language, in frequency. That is why they were so precise, why they carved it again and again, not just to decorate but to remember the positions of power. Because when a god holds the Ankh, you are seeing a technology of transmission, a way of saying, life is not mine, life moves through me, and I offer it to you as it was offered to me. This is how consciousness spreads, not through control, through gesture, through those small acts of remembrance, where one being becomes a conduit for something far older, far vaster, far truer than the mind can hold. And the Ankh held with reverence becomes the invitation, not to hold power, but to share life. What if the Ankh was never meant to be carried, because it was already within you? What if it wasn't an object you hold, but a geometry you embody? Not metaphorically, literally, energetically, anatomically. Because once you stop seeing the Ankh as a symbol on stone and start recognizing it as a living pattern, something awakens. You begin to feel it in the structure of your body, in the rhythm of your breath, in the way energy moves through your spine and limbs. Let's look again. The vertical line, it's your spine. The central channel, the staff of the soul. The axis mundi, around which your entire nervous system wraps. From the base of your pelvis to the crown of your skull. Your spine is the main conductor of life force energy. It is the foundation of all movement, all breath, all subtle awareness. The horizontal bar, your shoulders, your arms, your heart center extended into the world. From this axis, your hands give and receive. You touch, create, hold, express. Your arms are how your inner being shapes outer reality. The Ankh includes them because life does not flow through spine alone. It flows outward, horizontally, through interaction, through expression, through presence in relationship. And the loop? That is where the mystery deepens. The loop is your head, yes, but more precisely, your crown, your third eye, your neural halo, the subtle field of energy that extends above the scalp, where ideas arrive, where vision is received, where you feel the presence of the divine. In many spiritual traditions, this is the thousand-petal lotus. In science, the brain's electromagnetic field literally loops above and around the body. Your pineal gland, the seat of inner light, rests in the center of this loop. The ancients knew this. They saw the body not just as muscle and bone, but as a vessel of resonance. The Ankh mirrors this vessel, but it goes deeper. Because when you sit in stillness, spine upright, shoulders wide, crown soft, breath flowing in spirals, you begin to form the Ankh in posture. You feel the line, the cross, the open loop above. You become the symbol. And in that state, your body becomes a tuning fork. You begin to resonate with the earth's field. You feel rooted and elevated at once. Your breath becomes prayer. Your movement becomes alignment. Even the nervous system flows in spiral loops that mirror the loop of the Ankh. The spine branches into nerves through the shoulders. The vagus nerve, the great wanderer, connects breath, heart, gut, and mind in a single continuum. And above all this, the craniosacral rhythm pulses gently through the skull, a loop of living wave. You are not just aligned with the Ankh, you are the Ankh. It is encoded in your design. When your energy flows freely down the spine, out the arms, circling back through the head, you are completing the sacred circuit. You are not chasing life, you are conducting it. And this is why the symbol persisted, because the ancients weren't drawing icons, they were mapping us. They were saying, this is what it means to be alive, to hold the earth in your base, the sky in your crown, and to breathe between the two as a bridge of living light. You don't need to hold the Ankh, you need to remember it in your form. To walk as the Ankh, to breathe as the Ankh, to meditate, to touch, to move with the awareness that you are shaped by sacred law. And when you do, you don't just align your spine, you align with the memory that you are the key, not to some external power, to the original harmony, the divine order your soul has always known. Truth never belongs to one civilization, and symbols, the deepest ones, always echo through time, through culture, through language, as if life itself is trying to remind us again and again what we already know. The Ankh may be Egyptian by name, but its code is everywhere. The same loop, the same spine, the same cross, the same archetype. Hidden, disguised, adapted but never erased. Because once a symbol enters the collective field, it finds 1,000 forms. Let's look beyond Egypt. In ancient Mesopotamia, you find the Anzu staff, a sacred object with a vertical base and looped top, used in temple rites to symbolize divine authority granted by the heavens. In India, the Yoni Lingam circle above, vertical pillar below, represents not just fertility, but the sacred union of polarity. The feminine vessel, the masculine force, life birthed through their meeting. Sound familiar? Even in Christian iconography, we see the crux ansata, the handled cross, which was in fact borrowed from Egypt. Its loop quietly retained on the earliest versions of the cross before being flattened into dogma. The Tau cross T-shaped is found in ancient Judea, used by healers and mystics as a symbol of life and divine mercy. The Ankh echoes in the cross of Venus, the planetary symbol representing the divine feminine, a circle above a vertical stem. And in Norse mythology, the god Odin hangs from the world tree, receiving the rune's sacred wisdom after 9 days of surrender. His posture, arms outstretched, body suspended, becoming the axis between worlds. Even the Maya carved spiral cross glyphs, symbols of life, death, and the movement of spirit across dimensions. And then there's the Key of Solomon, the ancient sigil of unlocking divine mysteries, another code of access, a shape of transmission. In alchemy, we find the union of sun and moon, looped above the philosopher's cross, symbolizing the completion of inner marriage and the awakening of the elixir of life. It's as if throughout history, the same geometry keeps resurfacing, not to repeat itself, but to remind, to remember, to restore what was fractured by time and hidden by forgetfulness. Because this shape, the Ankh, and its variants isn't religious. It's energetic, a signature of how life works, a map of breath, of polarity, of structure and surrender, of the vertical current, the spine, the will, the divine descent, of the horizontal current, the arms, the heart, the human embrace, of the loop, the portal, the womb, the opening to source. This is why the symbol recurs. Because the message must survive even when the words are lost. You can ban the teachings, burn the books, silence the teachers. But you can't kill a shape that lives in consciousness itself. It will rise again, in another tongue, on another continent, through another hand. Because sacred truth never belongs to a single culture. It belongs to life. And the Ankh? It's one of the oldest ways life ever signed its name. It was never about wearing it, or drawing it, or worshiping it. It was always about becoming it. Because the Ankh was never just a relic, never just a glyph. It was a mirror, a message encoded in geometry, a reminder, you are the bridge between worlds. You are the breath between opposites. You are the key you seek. To truly understand the Ankh is not to study it. It is to embody it, to let it shape how you sit, how you move, how you breathe, how you live. Stand still right now. Let your spine lengthen. Let your shoulders soften and open. Let your head rest lightly above your neck. Let your breath rise and fall like a loop. In that moment, you are the Ankh. Not figuratively, literally. Your vertical axis holds the current. Your horizontal arms transmit it. Your open crown receives it. And when you align with that, you don't just feel better. You become attuned. You become a conduit. You begin to walk with rhythm, speak with clarity, touch with purpose, move with grace. Not because you're trying, but because you're in resonance with something older than time. The living Ankh is not just posture, it is presence. It is the way you listen, the way you carry breath into a room, the way your silence says more than words, the way your body becomes a temple without walls. You are not here to follow symbols. You are here to activate them, to be them. And the Ankh, that ancient curve and cross, was left as a reminder of what you already are. A meeting point of earth and sky, of breath and body, of mystery and form. The loop is your surrender. The line is your will. The arms are your gift to the world. And the space within the whole is where the sacred lives. So don't just study the Ankh. Move like it. Breathe like it. Stand like it. Love like it. Because the most powerful symbols were never meant to be worn. They were meant to be remembered through the way you live.